The Steelers squeaked one out on Monday Night Football thanks to a stellar defensive performance. The team looked to regroup during the short week this week, heading onto the road for the first time this season to take on the Raiders Sunday night in Las Vegas. We have the latest from Vegas coming up. You're watching Steelers Kickoff live right here on KDKA TV.
Welcome to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
It's a Week 3 game day, and you're looking live at the Stratosphere in Las Vegas, Nevada on a beautiful day, it looks like, for football, as the Steelers take on the Raiders. Monday night football, or Sunday night football action. I'm ahead of myself, but it's Sunday morning, and it's been a long weekend. Welcome inside the KDKA studios for another edition of Steelers Kickoff. Bob Pompeani, joined by the quarterback of the program, Mr. Charlie Batch. Rich Walsh and Gerry Dulac have survived Vegas for at least a night. We're going to hear from them coming up momentarily. So, Charlie, it might not have been pretty. They don't give style points in the NFL, but beating AFC North rival is always good. What's your primary takeaway from that game we saw from Cleveland?
For me, is they were able to squeak out a win as ugly as it played out, and that's something that really you can teach off of. So it's a lot easier to do that after a win versus the loss, but they know they have a lot of work ahead of them.
They certainly do, and when you look at the way the game evolved, certainly, they did not push the football. They didn't get inside the red zone, and they still ended up winning a game. Defensive plays like that. Alex Highsmith was named Player of the Week, and he deserved it when he did a forced fumble to set up the Watt touchdown as well. And one major issue that has hampered the Steelers through 2 weeks of this season has been the inability to start fast. This is something that's become an issue the last couple of seasons. It is now a trend, but they're really a problem in 2023. So the first 5 possessions for the Steelers in each of the first 2 games netted only 32 yards, Charlie. That's it. 40 points, 40 yards and only 3 total points. It's the same number of turnovers that have accumulated in that same stretch. That's never good. And they're only able to gain 1 first down throughout all of that time. Very anemic numbers for a team like this. Charlie, what do you think the offensive needs to do to establish really a better rhythm in these games early on, especially?
Yeah, they have to establish their identity, and right now you don't have it. And when you look back, the very first 2 series of each game, they started out with the pass in the first series, 3 straight passes, then they come back second series trying to establish the run. You just don't get any rhythm because you're not able to pick up first downs. Whatever you are that you're best at, start with that, and obviously that can help Kenny move forward because you got to implement the play-action game, and right now that's non-existent in his offense.
No, it has to be a big part of it, especially early in games. Can't fall behind. It changes everything. Now it's time for some quarterback analysis with Charlie here. We're talking about Kenny Pickett. He looked better than he did in Week 1, but certainly not what you would expect on that Monday night game against the Browns. There's been a lot of debate recently about whether the offensive struggles are more about play calling or the execution. What did you see from Kenny Pickett that concerns you and also maybe gives you hope?
Yeah, I think when I look at him overall, I think when you look back, execution is always going to be a part of it because regardless of what the play is, maybe it might be a check down, that's where you go with the particular football. But I think the thing that is concerning because now you're talking about mechanics and some of the throws that Kenny is making, just not setting his feet and making that and delivering the ball where he needs to be. He can correct that, but I think ultimately play calling has to set up to now anticipate what you're going to see to follow as the game moves forward, and that can help Kenny with his read. So again, it starts with an identity, and you can add those type of things in there. Man, you did this thing, but I am not concerned about Kenny one bit.
But they got to get something going, regardless if it's play calling, execution, receivers getting open, separation, whatever. Right now, we're going to take a trip out to Vegas. Rich Walsh and Gerry Dulac are standing by, and they have a deeper dive into the offensive woes that have really plagued this team so far. Gentlemen, good morning, and I know it's early, so thanks for getting up early.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. Live from sunny Las Vegas. And, we know the problems are offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, play calling potentially, the quarterback. But what about the offensive line?
Rich, what's funny about this whole thing is that was the most improved area in the team last year. And then what do they do in the offseason? They go out and sign Isaac Seumalo. They sign Nate Herbig. They draft Broderick Jones with the #1 pick. And then they draft a big tight end with the idea was they want to run the football. That was the whole purpose of that, to get even better up front. That's Andy Weidl's philosophy, and that's what they did. And yet here they are after 2 games. Same thing on the other side of the line. But after 2 games, they're struggling to run the ball and stop the run.
Yeah, their struggles aren't limited to offense and offensive up front. How about defense and defensive up front? Through 2 games, the Steelers rank dead last in the NFL against the run by allowing a whopping 193 yards per game. Now, that's not good, which is especially glaring when you consider the league leaders have allowed about a quarter of that total Jerry, what's going on up front with this defense?
You know, Rich, last year they had gone from 27th or 29th in the league to 10th against the run. That was their number one focus last year, was stopping the run. And so you thought that would carry over into this year, and here they are, first two games, allowing all those yards and of course those 260-yard plus runs. You know, even when Nick Chubb went out the other day, Jerome Ford came in and ran pretty well, also caught some passes out of the backfield. But their run defense has been a little spotty, obviously. And, Cam Hayward being out, does that hurt? Absolutely it hurts. And, I don't think Larry Ogunjobi's 100%. But whatever it is, they brought in those inside linebackers to be thumpers and be better against the run. And, again, after two games, we haven't seen that.
Yeah, I guess their focus this week has to be not giving up those big runs. They got to tackle those guys. All right, back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thanks very much, guys. We'll check in shortly. Coming up next, we're going to take a look back at a bright spot of the Steelers' defense, their outside linebacking duo. Man, they are playing lights-out football. We'll talk about it right here on KDKA.
Welcome back to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
Forget, each week, Bordas & Bordas is donating $500 for every sack the Steelers record, all part of the Sacks for Kids campaign. To this point, including the preseason, the Steelers have amassed 19 takedowns. That's good enough for $9,500. We thank Bordas & Bordas. And speaking of sacks, the duo of T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith have been causing major problems for opposing quarterbacks to this point of the season. It doesn't look like that will be slowing down anytime soon. It's been the bright spot of this defense through the first two games. Look at this. The pair has already recorded 23 tackles, 5 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 touchdowns. Also important to mention that leads the NFL currently with 4 sacks, T.J. Watt. Charlie, what are they doing so that they're at the top of their game right now? Are they the best pass rushing duo in the league so far?
I think so, and it reminds me of all the pass rushing duos that we had in the past. Clark Hagan, Joey Porter, Lamar Woodley, James Harrison, and now you're seeing Highsmith and Watt. These guys are playing off of each other, and they know, okay, we just can't always speed rush to the quarterback. We have to play off one another. Somebody may come inside, one outside, and when you're seeing that tandem, man, it's really good because they get to give each other the look, and then all of a sudden they know what both of them are thinking, and that's what makes the good tandems right now.
They are on top of their game, no doubt. Meanwhile, Watt and Highsmith are not the only ones taking care of business on the defensive side of the ball. Some new faces are trying to make their mark as well. Rich Walsh was able to catch up with one of the new free agent acquisitions. He's standing by again in Vegas. Rich?
Yeah, Bob, the Steelers have a few new faces on this year's defense. One of those includes a former first-round draft pick of the Atlanta Falcons back in 2016, Keanu Neal. He's a big part of this year's secondary, also named after a famous actor. I had a chance to go one-on-one with the Steelers safety earlier this week.
Keanu, why Pittsburgh? Why'd you pick the Steelers? It's a lot of tradition here. I felt like it was a great opportunity to go around a bunch of great guys, or great defense. To talent or the opportunity here as far as getting to a championship in this year. So it definitely was a no-brainer.
I know you played for a couple of teams that love defense, but have you noticed how much the city loves defense?
It's huge here. It's huge here, and it's a lot of fun, man. Like I said, there's a lot of talent on this team. Just being around a group like this is definitely a lot of fun.
What about when they play Renegade on the scoreboard? Like, what is it? I know a couple of players talked about it. We see it in the stand, the field in the press box.
This is my first time experiencing it. I think last game when they played it, I was just looking around, and Alex, he kind of looked at me. He's like, "This is dope, isn't it?" But yeah, he's pretty solid. It's cool, man. The fans really get into it. Gives it chills, man. It's definitely a cool experience to get your hyped up for sure.
And then a couple of plays later, Keanu scores a touchdown.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess it worked this time, right?
I guess that's how it works.
I read somewhere you were named after Keanu Reeves. You tell me about that story. How did that happen?
Yeah, so my mom, she needed a carry, and my brother Kelly was a big fan of Keanu Reeves, and that's the name that popped in his head, and he told her, and she liked it, so I stuck.
Obviously, they're big fans of speed. While Keanu Neal will be a big part of today's game plan, trying to contain Devontae Adams. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Rich, thank you very much. And Charlie Neal is part of a defensive backfield that has been up and down over the first couple of games. What is your take on their group so far collectively?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things, and I think when you look back, their communication, they need to get better on that. I think ultimately there's a few missed tackles, but I think where they are from a veteran perspective, those are things that they can work on, and you can see it progressively getting better. And if you're going to include somebody like a Neal in there, that means defenses or offenses are putting different packages on her, forcing him to be on the field a lot more, and this is something that really they can continue to grow at.
All right, coming up next, we're going to go back to Vegas. Rich has a preview of the Raiders coming off a big loss against Buffalo. That's next. Keep it locked right here to KDKA TV.
BetMGM Steelers Kickoff is presented in part by your Western PA Chevy dealers.
Excited about getting back in the AFC Stadium and working to stack another victory this week.
Najee breaks through into the secondary. Jalen Warren, he hits it and gets it. And a beauty by George Pickens. And it's caught by Freiermuth. Oh, yes! Shotgun snap. Fires for the end zone. Touchdown. Pocket collapses. Down by T.J. Watt. Ball is out and the Steelers pick it up. And that's T.J. Watt.
It's prime time. What you do matters right now.
We'll keep our mouth shut.
Intercepted on a catch.
We'll make no excuses.
George Pickens, touchdown.
And we'll see you at the stadium real soon.
That'll be tonight. All right, a special thanks to Steelers Media Productions for the latest type video to get you ready for Sunday Night Football. Right now it's time to head out to Vegas once again. Rich is standing by with an early season look at the Raiders, who have a few new faces and some familiar faces in the mix as well. Rich?
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. Out here in Vegas, Raiders fans were feeling good after that Week 1 win in Denver. Then reality set in against Buffalo last week, getting blown out. So just like in Pittsburgh, there's a lot of questions surrounding this Las Vegas team. Many of those questions surround the Raiders' defense. They allowed the Bills to pick up nearly 30 first downs last week, and Josh Allen had a field day on their DBs.
Allen up. Caught. Touchdown.
So far this season, the Raiders' defense ranks near the bottom of the league in points allowed, rush yards allowed, and passing touchdowns. But maybe the most alarming stat is that they've yet to force a single turnover through 8 quarters of play. On offense, Derek Carr spent the offseason leaving Las Vegas, and the Raiders brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, who has had mixed success so far. Through 2 games, he has 3 TDs and 3 interceptions, despite throwing to one of the league's best wide receivers in Davante Adams. After leading the NFL in rushing yards last season, Josh Jacobs is off to a very slow start. Through 2 games, he's only run for a total of 46 yards, while averaging well under 2 yards per carry. Despite those numbers, the Steelers know that the Adams-Jacobs combo still presents a huge challenge.
Man, we got to deal with some dangerous eligibles. We got to find a delicate balance of working to minimize Jacobs while, not exposing ourselves to the exploits of 17.
Tonight's game marks the first road test of 2023 for the Steelers and their first ever trip to Las Vegas. Although based on recent ticket data, Allegiant Stadium may feel more like a home game if Steeler Nation shows up like they normally do. All right, whichever fan base dominates the stadium tonight, they should expect to see a close game. 5 of their last 6 meetings were decided by 1 score or less, with the Raiders winning all 4 of those games not played in Pittsburgh. Now, the Steelers won the last matchup, and the Steelers also have won 7 of the last 10, but they haven't won away since 1995, and the Steelers recently were the much better team against the Raiders, losing on the road. So the one thing I can say, Steelers Nation has definitely infiltrated Las Vegas this weekend. Back to you guys.
No surprise there. Thanks, Rich. And, the best part about this, not in Oakland anymore, because Oakland has been a nightmare for the Steelers in that stadium. So they're out there. You've made your share of trips out west. Tell me about the travel. How does it impact performance, or is it just a myth?
No, it's not a myth at all, because you're going across the country, and I've been part of many of those conversations over the years. They have worked in our favor. But now this is going to be tough, because they just played Monday night. Now you're coming into a Sunday night game, so there's lack of sleep coming into this particular game. The Steelers altered their travel schedule, and let's see how that pans out, because at the end of the day, these guys have to get their rest, and this is something that Mike Tomlin adjusted the schedule accordingly. So we'll see how it plays out.
It's a big game, though. In the AFC, all these tiebreakers, especially early in the season, do matter in the end. Meantime, it's now an opportunity to send this program to New York City. James Brown is standing by with a look at what's coming up today on the NFL Today on KDKA and CBS.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much. And up next on the NFL Today, Week 3 kicks off with a preview of your featured matchup between the Colts and the Ravens. Then Phil goes to the tape to break down what makes Miami's offense so explosive. And Nate's guy, Kyle Brandt, taps in to instill some optimism into the league's winless squads. And later, your Hall of Fame coach, Bill Cowher, unveils his top 5 defenders in the league today. But first, Bob and Charlie, Coach's Guys, return when Steelers Kickoff continues right here.
Welcome back to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
Hey, Steeler rookies brought smiles to the kids at Children's Hospital on Tuesday. Players posed for pictures, they signed autographs with families, and spent the morning making arts and crafts, playing games with those kids. And Children's Hospital says events like this are very important because they show the kids that they have a lot of people, especially big-time stars, rooting for them. Some of those rookies in attendance were members of that defense, young guys who are looking to make an impact here. And that is what Merrill Hodge is breaking down today in this week's edition of The Playbook.
Hi everyone, welcome into the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex for the Acrisure Playbook. We're going to take a look at the Steeler defense and how much better it's getting from week 1 to week 2 and the expectation of week 3 against the Raiders. And we're going to start with the very first play of the game. There's 3 safeties on the field to start the game. Well, there's a big reason for that, but first let's show where the safeties are. So Minka's down here as a corner. Here's your other 2 safeties in their traditional spots. Now, the reason that they have 3 safeties on the field, they have 3 tight ends. They got 1 tight end here, 1 tight end right here in the slot, and another tight end wide. That's why Minkah Fitzpatrick is wide. This indicates a lot of run. That's why they put 3 safeties on the field, thinking this might be a run. Well, they come out and empty. But once Chubb goes wide, now you know it's going to be a pass or a run by the quarterback. This is just a bad throw. As Watson drops back, I mean, really the tight end's open, but bounces off his hands. You know, Minkah has it, gets bounced around there, and then Highsmith, he catches it, takes it to the house. Beautiful way to start the game. TJ Watt, let's focus right where he is. And if you notice that he's up here and then he walks down, and Holcomb actually is going to come here to the white. The combination of this little subtle shift really puts an enormous burden on your offensive line because they have to adjust to it in a second. But this is what ultimately has to happen. And keep in mind, they had a rookie here at right tackle. He has to adjust and take 55, and the guard has to adjust to take TJ Watt. They do it and they time it perfectly. When you do that, this is often what happens. You have people that are unaccounted for, you get Holcomb in the backfield, and you completely ruin their running game. Now I don't expect 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. It would be nice, but this defense is playing as good as any in football and is going to help win games until this offense can get back on its feet and start matching what the defense is doing.
All right, Merrill, thanks very much. Charlie, Monday night was the first game without Cam Hayward up front. Again, they gave up big rushing numbers. How do you think that unit has fared, and what do they got to do to stop Josh Jacobs today?
Yeah, that's tough because even when you look at where Cam Hayward's out, how early he left in that first game, this is very concerning because you give up back-to-back 100-yard rushers. So they know they have to get ahead of it from that perspective. It's just a matter of really calming down, and I think they'll have an opportunity here because they're not playing at home. They should be able to communicate, and I expect that group to get better.
And Jacobs has not had success early in the first couple of weeks. This may be the game they be circling here, given the way the Steelers defense has played against the run. When we come back, it's time for the predictions. So we're going to go out west again and hear from the guys. And Charlie has his special pick for this game, all coming up next.
BetMGM Steelers Kickoff is presented in part by your Western PA Chevy dealers.
All right, it's prediction time. Steelers go into this game again as an underdog out in Vegas. Rich, take it away. What do you guys think?
Even though we're in Vegas, I will not be gambling on this game. That is for sure. I'll give you the honors to go first.
Well, thanks, Rich. I'm the same way. Watch but don't bet. I kind of like what I saw from the Steelers last week. The little baby steps, 5 chunk plays of 20-plus yards from the offense. And you know, the defense taking the ball away twice and scoring touchdowns. Look, they're not going to do that every week. The key is going to be taking away Devontae Adams. But I like those little steps that they took offensively. Believe it or not, I like the Steelers in this game 20-16.
All right, you're the optimist. I am not. I'm going with history here. Their offense has struggled. They haven't been able to score points. I don't think they're going to be able to score points here tonight. They can't stop the run. I like the Raiders in this one, 24-20. Guys?
All right, guys. Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah, lack of consistency for me on offense. That concerns me right now. The defense have been on the field 15 minutes more than the offense. Right now, I have the Raiders winning this game 19-13 as I feel that the Steelers defense runs out of gas.
And I will agree. And I'm going to say it's going to be Josh Jacobs. He has not done well running the football. They've given up a ton of yards, and I got to see it to believe it, but I don't know that we'll see it tonight. 27-19, I like the Raiders. Meantime, we have the NFL Today coming up on CBS. We got the Colts and Ravens. Keep track of what Baltimore's doing. Wrap it all up tonight, 11:35. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. For all of us here in the KDKA studios and out west in Las Vegas, I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a great day. We'll see you later tonight on KDKA.